Whata?
And g'day, I'm Michael.
And I'm Janet, and welcome to this week's episode about breaking bad habits. So what exactly is a habit? Well, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, a habit is a settled or regular tendency or practice, especially one that is hard to give up, or an acquired mode of behaviour that has become nearly or completely involuntary.
Well, what does that actually mean? In other words, a habit is something that you do without giving it any conscious thought. Your subconscious has accepted the habit and runs the program automatically. Now, some of our habits serve us really well and lead us into great moments, great days, great months, and a great life, etc. And some of our habits do absolutely the exact opposite.
One of the most powerful habits that I encourage all of you to practice daily is the really simple task of making your bed, even though I'm still waiting for my grown-up kids to understand this one. But jokes aside, the simple act of making your bed every day can reset your whole day. It's a game changer. There's a YouTube video kicking around with a Navy SEAL admiral speaking about this, saying that if you want to change your life, begin by making your bed. The wisdom in developing the habit of making your bed daily is that it sets up your day with a small task accomplished. Your first task of the day is a success, and guess what? It sets up the next task for success and so on. It teaches the vital importance of the little things, the little steps that can make a big difference.
Now, would you be surprised, Janny, that most people live by habit?
No.
In fact, 40 to 45% of our daily activities are habits, which means that if you don't get your habits right, you won't reach your goals, right? Now, we've all heard the term people are creatures of habit. Well, one likely reason for this is that essentially habits are pretty efficient. We can perform useful behaviours and tasks without wasting any time or energy deliberating about what to do. So I want you to notice the next time that you brush your teeth. I guarantee you brush them exactly the same way every time. The same applies to shaving. I know when I was shaving this morning, I felt myself like, I do it this way every time. And any other rituals that we go through, even driving a car is an habitual process. You're not thinking about the mechanics of using the accelerator or the brake or the clutch, or when you check your mirror or even use your indicator. In fact, how many times have you actually driven when you've thought, I don't even remember those last 5 miles?
Oh, yeah. Especially when you're doing a regular drive to work, you think, how did I even get here? It's a little bit scary.
That's really scary.
Especially when the traffic's been heavy and you just, it becomes the habit. I love this quote from Zig Ziglar. He says, all bad habits start slowly and gradually, and before you know you have the habit has you.
Yeah.
Every habit starts with a psychological pattern called a habit loop, which is a 3-part process. The habit loop concept was popularized by Charles Duhigg in his book, The Power of Habit. Charles writes that every habit can be broken down into the following 3 parts. 1, the cue, meaning the trigger for the automatic behavior to start. 2, the routine, meaning the behavior itself. And 3, the reward, meaning the feel-good for you after the routine. There have been many neurological research projects and studies that prove that when these elements become neurologically entwined, a new neural pathway develops so that the link that links this habit loop together in our minds. And this is why habits are so sticky and that some habits, as we all know, can be very tricky to break.
Look, it's a great concept, the habit loop. And so let's take a look at the 3 components of it in more detail, beginning with cues. So cues are the moments that trigger a habit sequence, and they generally come under these 5 categories: a certain time of the day, a certain place, the presence of certain people, a particular emotion, or a preceding behaviour that's become routine and accepted. And when you start looking at our habits in more detail, you will be analysing and reflecting on these categories around your habits. And the second part of the habit loop is the routine, which is the actual behaviour being carried out and the habit. So, for example, lighting a cigarette, or stopping at a cafe for a latte, or biting your nails, or pouring a whiskey after work, or watching a certain TV program, or anything. Could be excessive online shopping. The kind of things that we're talking about here.
The third part of the habit loop is the reward. And sometimes this can be a pretty difficult part of the habit to identify. One example could be lighting a cigarette, inhaling and thinking that it is relaxing you.
Mm-hmm. Been there a long time ago.
However, when you dig a bit deeper into this reward, physiologically dragging on a cigarette does totally the opposite of this. Increase of heart rate. There's nothing relaxing about it. Exploring and unravelling the reward section of your habits will educate and empower you to think. Do I really want to keep doing this? Is it serving me? Is it leading me to my desired outcome?
There is a science to habit change, but the tricky thing about calling something the science of habit change is that, well, if we say there's a science to it, if we know how habits are formed and we understand the habit loop, then surely there is an easy recipe for quick change of any habit that will work the same way every time. You know, if scientists and psychologists have discovered how these habit patterns work, then the logical answer is that they must have also found the recipe for change, right?
Unfortunately, as we all know as humans, it's not that easy. The thing is, there are so many different types of habits, and we as individuals are all different. So, sorry to say, there isn't one recipe for changing habits. For example, giving up cigarettes is different than stopping biting your nails, which is different from overeating, overdrinking, which is different from pencil chewing, and so it goes on. Furthermore, each person's habits are driven by so many different cues. In Duhigg's book, The Power of Habit, he suggests a framework to help you understand what drives your habits and then help change them. So what is the framework?
Well, firstly, identify the routine. Secondly, play with the rewards. Third, single out the cue. And then finally, have a plan. Because some habits will be really easy to change, but others will be a little bit more stubborn and deeply ingrained. So it will take quite a bit more work and over a longer time frame to break these habits. So we recommend a 30-day habit challenge, giving yourself a set date or time for beginning to work on your bad habit. And it's a really important note to yourself again here. It's the habit that is bad, not you. You're a wonderful human being, living and doing the best that you can in a totally challenging world. You are not your bad habits or behaviours. You just need to allow yourself the time and take the steps to begin working on them.
Changing the neural pathways of habit will, of course, mean unravelling and rewiring some very entrenched pathways, and that'll cause you some discomfort, fear of the unknown, and, of course, some pretty resistant thought patterns. Generally, your fragile ego will step right in here and feed the fears around all of this by saying you don't need to change, you can't, just don't step out of this comfort zone. Changing a bad habit, of course, does involve getting out of your comfort zone. And the fragile ego will throw up the following or similar thoughts around this process. Everything's fine. Why do I want to change anything? I like it how it is. Coasting. Take the least line of resistance. That's what the fragile ego wants you to do.
Yeah, it's easy.
The comfort zone can seem like a very good place, of course, because it's comfortable. Inside the comfort zone, we stop reaching, seeking and risking, and you actually stop growing. Without continued growth, we are now all we are ever going to be. Stagnant, not living to your true potential.
Yep.
Often it's your comfort zone that's holding you back.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So using that as a framework, let's look at the process to change a habit that works within the framework that we discussed earlier. So you can start to work on making a change to those tricksy and nasty little bad habits that don't serve you, right? So firstly, focus on one habit at a time. Don't try and do 10 habits at once.
Just one at a time.
Just one at a time. So secondly, as we said, we suggest that you do a 30-day habit challenge, which is a challenge which will focus you on changing that one specific habit. Next up, identify and set your desired outcome. What do you want to, what do you want to do by the end of this? And lastly, establish a baseline metric, because you need to know your current status quo of your habit. So what does that mean? Well, how much time do you waste on this habit? Or, how many cigarettes you're having a day, or how many Cokes you're having a day, or how often do you bite your fingernails? And what about cues?
Well, a cue is a trigger that encourages and sets you up for your habitual behaviour. The cue acts as an automatic reminder, like a little internal alarm for the habit, and makes you want to put it into action. The cue can be an object, a person, a feeling, an event, a scent, a taste, a sound. Really, the cue can be anything at all. For a true and lasting change in habit, you'll need to fully understand these cues, and there are 5 key questions to be asked when you notice your cue. And these are: 1. Location. Where are you? 2. Time. What are the times of day that you notice your cue coming in? 3. Your mood or your emotional state. 4. The company. Is anyone else around? Is there somebody that triggers that cue? 5. And the action. What are you currently doing when the cue begins to alarm?
And the key to getting to know your cues and the subsequent habit loop is just repetition. Remember that a habit is stored in the subconscious mind, and the best way to work with the subconscious is through constant and noticed repetition. So we suggest that you keep a little notepad or notes section on your phone handy and take the time to write your answers to the 5 cue keys, and you'll see patterns that emerge, and these patterns that provide insight into the first stage of your bad habit. So for bad habits to change, you'll really need to shake up the routine. And what do we mean by that?
Start to do things differently. And to get you going more easily, you can do this by simply changing things up. It can be powerful to even work on some simple things that you aren't focused on as a bad habit. But by doing these things, it will get you into the habit of stirring things up and changing. So being consciously aware of what you are doing and not just living your whole life as we tend to do on autopilot. For example, if you brush your teeth with your right hand, consciously switch to your left. If you drive the same route to work every day, mix it up. Try and change the route. Take note of which shoe you put on first as habit and consciously change that.
Yep, absolutely. And when you're working on changing habits and implementing new habits, you will always, and this is always, encounter obstacles. Count on it and be prepared for it. And plan for it by having if-then statements. So what do we mean by that? Well, there's statements that look at the potential situation and provide a response. So, if something happens, then I'll do this. So let me give you some examples. So, if you're talking about keeping up an exercise regime where your bad habits like, not looking after yourself and not being healthy, then if it's raining outside and I can't exercise outside, then I'll use the treadmill or an indoor exercise bike. If I'm eating out, then I will choose a good meal, follow the dietary plan that I have chosen. And most importantly, if at first you don't succeed, then I'll try and try again.
So you get the idea. It's pretty simple, but not necessarily easy. So there you have it. We hope you got a lot out of today's session. If you want to go into breaking bad habits in more detail, go to our website and check out our online program, which goes into breaking bad habits and breaks it down, makes it easy for you. Love and blessings until next time.
See ya. Thanks for watching this video, and we hope that you got a lot out of it. We would love it, be grateful and appreciative if you would take the time to like this video, comment if you feel inclined, and share with any friends that you think would benefit from this. We are constantly creating new great content, so also remember to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the awesome material that we have coming up. See you soon.